Found there's a nurse convention at the Calapooia, so tell them to finally find yourself a girlfriend.
Or boyfriend, because that's the world we live in. Yeah.
I hope so.
Okay, so.
Did she say mm-mm?
He's way too like awful to be a good gay.
Oh.
Would you set your gay friend up with
straight men are the fucking worst. So
yeah, cut that one.
Can confirm. Divorced twice. So yeah, hard no. Okay. Welcome to episode 5 of Business Under the Influence, which is a casual and educational podcast in which these 3 married consultants embark on an alcohol-fueled romp, because that's a word that we're going to use, in the world of millennial business in the 21st century. We also, if it was unclear, are drinking during this episode. So, to my left is Ben Howarth. Howarth? I don't actually know how to say your last name.
Whatever you prefer.
Ben Howarth III, who is very knowledgeable in the area of all things startups and financial wizardry, and is super passionate about startups and helping people get going on their journey to entrepreneurship and business ownership. Fun fact, he is also the owner of the largest Beanie Baby collection west of New Zealand. It's true.
All right. This is my good friend David. We're going this way, right? Just double. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I think I fucked it up, but go on.
All right. This is my good friend David. He has over 40 years experience in the military and management of various kinds between several Fortune 50 companies. Fun fact about him is that he refused to give his help elf a sock. # give the sock.
# free the elves.
So this is Kristen. She will be referred to by herself as the better sibling. She will be referred to by our mother as that one. She has a lot of experience in business, having worked her way up the hard way, and really understanding the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day of how to make a business run successfully, which is why she now runs a business teaching you how you can avoid those pitfalls. Fun fact about Kristen is she actually once wrestled an alligator at a state fair for $1,000.
Oh, that was a good day.
That was a good day.
That was great.
Yeah, dude, I fucking kicked that thing's ass too. Like,
and the funnel cakes are delish.
Yeah, funnel cakes, dude. That's what's up. What are we talking about this episode? Oh, pitch decks, in which Ben is especially wizardous in.
Wizardly.
Yeah. Oh, we forgot. We're also drinking. What are we drinking?
Oh,
I forgot.
So we let off with shots of Pendleton from the fine establishment of Pendleton, Oregon, a purveyor of whiskey. And we are now leading off with.
I have a Montucky cold snack, unicorn edition.
Oh, it's a Pride Month edition. Love
drinkable, it. Wonderful for floating the river.
I am running the. He went whimsy. I went pain and darkness. So we are going with the Boneyard RPM IPA with the skull on the front. So you know it kicks.
Yeah, that's how you know it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I have selected the finest 2020 Firesteed Oregon Pinot Noir.
Oh,
with a screw top. Yep. The screw tops are where it's at. And I'm also ironically drinking it in my very fancy Rydell glass.
Yeah.
which I was gifted for Christmas from the less better sibling.
So fun fact actually about Firesteed is those are probably the first years of the new owners wine. Firesteed was bought probably about 4 years ago. So you're probably starting to get the stuff that was cast that long ago. So you're getting the new batch.
It was founded in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have any cool updates.
Yeah,
just the original story.
They sold a while ago, so they had really cheap wine for a while. It was phenomenal.
Listen to our podcast.
This was $14, so it's not bad either.
No,
I'm sure it's the Rydell glass.
Yeah. It's because you get the full nose from the Rydell glass.
Other fun fact: Montucky is 8%.
No, that's back to local.
I feel like that was information you should have had earlier.
Just says 8% on the front of the can.
If you stop reading at the numbers.
It's an extremely light beer.
Oh, that's different. Other fun fact, do you remember when I accidentally got drunk at how many towns? Was it one town? Do you have two towns? Is that
Two
you?
towns.
Where did we
yeah.
go? We went somewhere where you have a mug on the wall, and I am allergic to
Yeah,
hops.
Calapooya.
A sad
Yeah.
fun fact. Yep. And so I was like, yeah, I'll get a cider. And then after two, I realized that it was 10% alcohol.
Ooh.
And I was pretty drunk. Yeah, because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, I'm talking way too much. I'm saying things that don't matter. And then I like picked up the bottle and looked at it, and I was like, oh,
This is spicy.
okay. Yeah, I assume, you're just it's like 4 to 5%. Nope, it was double that. So, anywho, what next? Oh yeah, pitch decks. So, Ben is an expert in pitch decks, and what do you call that whole like concept of helping people get financing for their startups and stuff?
I mean, in general, you'll refer to venture capital, like we are seeking funding, or we're in a various series round of funding, seed, Series A, Series B. But with venture capital is kind of the industry of like unicorns. I want the next Facebook, the next Snapchat. We're pitching for $5 million because we think we have an incredible idea. That is the universe of venture capital, where you're going to see smaller firms, they might raise $10 million in a year, to the massive classic firms in the Bay Area raising like millions, potentially billions of dollars in rounds of funding for startups.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then their entire job, it's kind of like a more cocaine fueled stock market, if I'm honest, where people with millions and billions of dollars evaluate startups pitch to them, they propose ideas, and they are invested in. And this is a pool that's investing in a lot of various startups. In the world of venture capital, if I have $10 million, I might invest in a shit ton of $100,000 startups, a bunch of small ones. I might invest $5 million in one startup and $5 million in another because they're a little bit farther along. They've already shown first revenue or things like that. And so you're kind of sitting down at this table and gambling with a shit ton of money based on how well you think not just an idea is going to do. Like there's so much more to a startup than the idea. And I can rant about that for hours, but you are betting on whether this new business is going to be the next Facebook.
So for someone who doesn't know, it's Shark Tank.
Yeah. Oh, Shark Tank.
But
yeah.
not televised.
I never remember Shark Tank because it's the most like awkward amalgamation of like maybe venture capital, but sort of not really because there's so many things.
Because it's also
missing.
Entertainment.
Yeah, because it's entertainment. I think Shark
So
Tank.
like, what's the big difference between the two?
Honestly, the biggest difference between Shark Tank and an actual VC world is they only look at one facet. The people on Shark Tank are extremely knowledgeable. Like the judges, Mark Cuban and others, they know what they're talking about. I don't disagree with that. But for entertainment value, they are purely looking at and are only presented the base idea. The 5-sentence, here it is. And for the most part, it's largely plastic, single box or big box goods. I made a glow dog collar. Cool. They aren't getting proposed a new business model, a way to reinvent the insurance industry or things like that other startups might be. So on Shark Tank, you're looking at a very small subset. And then you're also missing every other facet that makes a startup, such as the team, who has experienced this issue, who is the one driving this to market, where are they in their journey, and what sort of plan have they put together thus far?
So like if I went into a VC firm to pitch and all I had seen was Shark Tank, they're then going to follow up with being like, okay, well, how much experience do you have bringing the product to market? And I would be like, what's any of the words you're saying?
Yeah, they are going to put their foot just like
right up there,
just right up the asshole.
Yeah.
So what's the definition of like, what's the difference between a startup and like starting a business?
Ooh, excellent question. Bit of a tangent, but there are kind of two different big genres. One is called a lifestyle business, which is a new business that is well understood. If I wanted to start a house painting business in the Pacific Northwest, super easy. Honestly, there's a pretty big demand for it. You have set costs, set materials. You have a lot of examples of people doing it before. You can create a house painting company. A startup is generally a novel, keyword novel, or new way to do something, to interact with the world, a new product to bring to market, a new way to make money, whatever it might be. You are embarking on something where there is no established way to do it.
So like a novel, and this is probably not a great example, but a novel idea of a house painting company would be, what if we took youth during the summer who didn't have school and we coated them in paint and then launched them via catapult at the walls of a house?
Yes.
That's a novel way. So that's a startup house painting
That is, in
company
fact, I thought you were
versus
going,
a
like,
lifestyle house painting
College
company.
Works painting with that.
No.
I'm sure most of the country is familiar with College Works painting internships, but launching children covered in paint in a house is in fact a new way to paint a house.
So that would be the startup versus the lifestyle way of starting that
Correct.
business.
Where you get a Ford Transit van, where you get a paint sprayer, where you evaluate your cost of materials, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna go
A
find
catapult.
But
Mhm.
instead,
Correct.
like this one, you're like, that looks like a 14 kid job.
maybe 15, maybe 15. If we get
Yeah,
a
so
chunky
I'm
boy.
gonna
Yeah.
bid 18 so I can actually clear some costs
Right.
here. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So that's what
Yeah.
you would consider.
So it's
a
more of
startup.
like if you're like inventing something in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense because it's like it's like referencing Shark Tank too, because that's really the only like somewhat real life example I've seen too. Is it's like this new knickknack that folds your laundry for you or some shit like that, you know, which I think
Oh.
is actually a real one. Like there's like those little boards and you like fold shirts and shit.
Get them at Bed Bath and Beyond.
Anyway,
You can just like insert your
Yeah.
shirt in, and then it folds it for
You
you.
can also just cut cardboard and that does it. That's
Yeah,
what we did at
Yeah.
past company.
That's when you go to like you're anonymous, like your voice, the voice
Yeah.
masking thing is like
Mhm.
anonymous company
Yeah.
in robot voice.
We had a measurement and you just cut out a piece of cardboard and it did the job.
Yeah. But a
Yeah, I'm
startup, I
paying
don't
my
think.
shirts because
Yeah.
No.
it's too much work. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Okay, so the
There's-
startup has a new novel way. And so how do they get that new way of doing something across to people and tell them it will be successful if you give me money?
Oh boy. All right. So we're talking about take an idea. You have an idea. You're a
Mhm.
person with a really good idea. Side note, I think 9 out of 10 ideas are good because ideas are usually generated because you're experiencing a pain point in your
Mhm.
life. Something you did is frustrating. I don't know, your toilet seat's cold.
Mhm.
Whatever the fuck is your problem.
So yeah, you got a toilet
yeah,
seat
you have a problem.
heating plan.
Your idea is a heated toilet seat. Cool. That's not a bad idea. The rest of it, though, is how do you pitch for money and convince people that this is a worthwhile business? And that's where it gets tricky. That's where you see
Because like you could light the seat on fire.
exactly. You could light it on fire.
That warms it up.
You could just have a heater in your bathroom is called an alternative value proposition. Or you could make a hyper advanced toilet seat that people actually want for one reason or another, but is cost prohibitive to make. And while you had a great idea, the business is not a great business,
Mhm.
which is where I think businesses actually fail. You know, the classic trope is that 1 in 10 startups succeed, which I think is a really, really confident estimate, if I'm honest. I would go like 1 in 100, but you know, 1 in 10 that go through an accelerator program and actually get to pitching stage. Okay. But that's where you hit the wall of sure, your idea is amazing. Do you have the business model to back it up? Do your cost of materials make sense? Does the engineering involved to make this thing a reality make sense financially? You have to pay 5 or 6 engineers to make your toilet seat or a table slapper. You can make a robot that slaps tables. But does it make sense financially is where the pitch begins. You have an idea. It's great. You need money. Someone's only going to give you money if you can give them a return on investment. So does your business make money? And that's the question that you're actually answering when you pitch to people.
Okay. And so you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to have enough of the answers.
Right. You have
Where,
to prove
like-
that you have thought through the go-to-market
Mhm.
scheme.
Like you have I've researched the cost of a Raspberry Pi. I've researched the cost of toilet seats. I've researched the cost of electrical wiring. I've researched the cost of manufacture, and I've researched distribution. I need your money because I need an engineer that can make that toilet seat not electrocute people who stood on it.
Exactly.
Or you could be like, I have an engineer. We've proved it can work. Here's our initial thing. We just can't distribute it. So we are asking for your money to distribute it. But you need to have solved the other parts of it.
Right.
You have
You
to give
need-
the VCs like, this is what you are solving for
Mhm.
me.
Right. Which is exactly why you're asking for money. If you reach the point of asking for $1 million and you know why you need that $1 million, maybe it's for distribution, maybe it's for non-recurring engineering costs, you are asking for money because you have a use for it. If you have a use for it, you probably understand the next steps that your business needs to take.
So like pitching to venture capitalists, you aren't asking for money to make a company. You're asking for money to
Takes the next step.
Yeah,
Step
just
1,
that. Yeah,
step
that's
2,
step one.
step 3.
So when do you do, or in all cases, do you do a business plan and a pitch deck, or is a pitch deck like the thing that you send someone, like a cover letter kind of thing, where you're like, hey, here's the high or the highlights, the key points, whatever, for what my idea is, and that gets you in the door, and then you're doing like a whole pitch presentation, like business plan, all that kind of shit, or like what's the
Oh,
how do you do that?
It's difficult to do an episode on just pitching because you have to talk the rest about it or talk about the rest of it. Jesus Christ as well. Like your financial
Jesus Christ is
projections.
usually involved.
Oh my God, the amount of butt pucker in a startup. You are not ready. I don't care how ready you think you are. You are not ready, and it's going to be a great adventure.
Well, especially when you realize how much money's on the table.
Yeah.
At like a pitch, like a conference where you can go up and pitch to a bunch of VCs.
Ooh, welcome to 2 people signed on. You're now responsible for $5 million, and they have 27 attorneys looking at you. Enjoy.
Sounds
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah,
Oh
sounds
yeah.
terrible.
Although it's not that bad. I will go on that tangent later. But
I mean, is $5 million really that much money? Let's be
to
honest.
them, not really. Well, depends. There are also startups that pitch to corporations rather than venture capital. But specifically talking about venture capital pitches, your question was around like what are you making a pitch for, and where do you pitch, or when?
Yeah, or,
Or
like,
like how
what's the
much
difference
like
between
do you build your
like
pitch deck? Oh, sorry. All you.
yeah, you're fucking right. What's like, when do you do a pitch deck in the process? What's the point of a pitch deck versus just like doing a presentation? Is like your introduction to people kind of thing.
The stupid answer is like 10 minutes in. You have an idea, right? Heated toilet seats. I hate that one's kind of boring. Slapping tables was better.
Table slappers.
That was way more entertaining.
Or catapulting children inside
Ooh, I
buildings.
like catapulting children. All right, so we're throwing children at buildings. You have this
Right,
idea.
catapulting. Yeah,
You somehow get around labor laws.
Well, they're
And
only
that was-
working for so long. That's the big requirement for child labor.
Yeah, but there's always more kids.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's what I'm saying. They're only
Unless
working, but each child's only working for so long. So you
True.
can
I wonder
just
how many throws you
turn
get
into
per
a-
child. That's going to be an operating cost. But
yeah.
when do you make the pitch for throwing children? Honestly, you start the moment you have the idea, because your pitch deck is also helping you determine your value proposition to communicate it. You're pitching why you want to throw kids at houses. Probably a great reason. I'm on
doesn't?
board.
Who
doesn't? But you're not gonna sit down at your desk and you're not gonna open PowerPoint and have, in half an hour, a fully fleshed out pitch deck with your team as your first slide, your initial value proposition, maybe team's first slide. But you're not gonna go all the way through and have an appendix of like financial. That's a different pitch deck. Your pitch deck to start is going to be in your head of like literally just the problem that you're trying to solve. Houses are not being painted violently enough. We have a solution that is employing high schoolers nationwide.
Yep.
Boom. There you go. That's
Crime
your pitch.
reduced.
Yeah, so you're starting with that kind of elevator pitch, if you will, that gets refined over time. But you do move into, okay, wait, maybe I have something. Maybe that wasn't just a drunk conversation. Maybe I have something that I should discuss with a couple people. And then you start planning. What materials does it take to create? Do I need a bunch of engineering to create it? Do I need a bunch of like financial knowledge, insurance knowledge, legal knowledge to create this? You start costing for things. And when you start looking at that roadmap, you sit down with PowerPoint. That's when you make your PowerPoint of what your thing is. And again, I would not pitch to someone at this point. That is not, having your pitch does not mean you're pitching. It means you have a singular honestly file on your desktop that is your value proposition, that you are constantly refining and constantly defining what you think the world needs.
So like at this point, we've realized catapults aren't as accurate as we'd like them to be. So we've transitioned to cannons.
Air cannons.
We are now air cannoning children in the sides of houses.
Oh yeah, you put a bunch of paint behind them.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sold.
So originally we
Yeah.
were like, okay, great idea, catapults. Then we realized, but I need to provide value. Like I need to make sure that I can only launch 15 children. I need those 15 children to count. So I need to have something that's more accurate than a catapult. And this is all part of that process. I had my initial one of like, I had a great idea at a bar, catapult children houses. And then I have my file on my computer where I'm like, catapult though? Question mark. And then I go cannon, question mark, parentheses, and then cannon, exclamation mark.
Yeah.
And then I start costing out how much, like, do I want to go with howitzer, Civil War cannon? What kind of cannon am I running?
Are you rifling the barrel to spin the children?
Yeah. Am I like, and how decorative am I going to make the cannons? The kids want to hop back into the cannon. Like, do I make it a carnival ride, or do they know this is a job that they?
It's like going to the dentist.
Yeah.
I think our episode title is Kids and Cannons.
Kids and Cannons.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, no, that's solid. Okay, so a pitch deck is something you're initially creating for yourself as kind of like a high level outline of what you're trying to do. And then from there, you're refining the process through, like, is that when you would do like business planning stuff, or like more like that kind of thing? Like
exactly
the operational strategy? Like, okay.
You're going to dive into your business strategy, which is extremely broad. That's when you're going to go into the business model canvas. If you watch that episode with, okay, I have an idea. What are all the puzzle pieces? You know, what customers do I need? What supply chain do I need? What kind of platform do I need to charge on? Is this a cash only business? Because it's probably still illegal to cannon children at houses. Maybe, but those are the considerations that your pitch deck is going to take. But you start talking about your audience more so. Your pitch deck branches from just your thought dump onto a PowerPoint to what is my audience? And your first pitch, honestly, should be for practice. Find a local organization. You're not pitching for money. You're pitching to network. I'm trying to remember the name. It's not like, it's similar to Fireside Chats. It's like Embers or something like that. There's a lot of local startup organizations, but that's one in the Pacific Northwest that hosts a lot of pitch competitions for, you know, newer startups. Absolutely anyone can pitch. You just come in, you pitch. It's hosted by a local organization. There's like 30 people in the audience, largely from other startups, and you are just meeting people. And people you would kind of be surprised at might be in the audience there. But that's an audience.
So it's kind of like, it's like Toastmasters, but for pitches specifically.
Yes.
Oh, Pitchmasters.
Oh, that'd be a good show.
Coming to Netflix this fall.
Oh my God.
Pitchmasters.
Is that our next
and
idea?
greatest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
But you're thinking about that audience. Your other pitch, you will have, like, let's go back to the details. On your desktop, in your folder that is My Shitty Startup, Yeeting Kids, you're going to have a couple PowerPoint files. One is going to be for this early on networking that is literally just your idea, your initial thoughts on your target market, and your initial plan to get there. And your goal is talk to me. Your goal is I want your input. Your goal is I want to meet you. So 6 months from now, when I have a problem, I can call you, Mr. Finance Guy, who happened to be at this networking event, and get some insight, because advisors are super valuable. Your other file on your desktop is going to start being for real money. You're going to realize, shit, I need to build 27 cannons to prove my point. Okay, I need to build 3 cannons to prove my point. I need the steel. I need, you know, the compressed air. I need the paint. I need some fuckers willing to let me yeet kids at their homes.
And the engineers, preferably the engineers.
And the engineers.
That's how you do cost saving.
Engineers are too expensive.
Yeah, you
better.
get an engineer and then you use their
No,
kids.
they're kids.
But that deck is going to be way more technical in nature. It's going to be, this is what I need right now. This is going to be why I need it. You're going to have an end goal, right? Like start 30 seconds, end goal, and then dive right into, this is what I need in the short term and why I'm pitching to you. But yeah, so your pitch is going to branch off into 10, 15, 20 different files on your desktop, depending on your audience.
Oh, so if I'm going for, I just need initial startup. I need to buy 3 cannons. I need to buy 2 engineers and preferably their children's silence.
I like that you buy the engineers. You don't hire them.
We bought them. And then we're buying their children's silence. And so like that, like my first pitch, like is that Fisher Price, my first pitch. My first pitch with like the giant buttons and stuff
Yes.
is give me money for steel, air, engineers, and children's silence.
Yep.
And then so that initial pitch could just be for that. And those people say, we like this, we're going to give you, and like, what kind of trades can you make at a pitch? Could that person say, we believe in your idea, but it's not fully fleshed out yet. So therefore, I want to take 50% of whatever your company makes from now on. Or will they just be like, I want $5 million, and at the end of this, I want $17 million back?
Concessions are a big question. Usually don't happen too much at the seed stage. The seed stage being like $0 to $100,000 or under $1 million. You're looking at you're not making money yet. You're pre-revenue. You have not yeeted kids for money, but you have a great idea. You have a roadmap. You have managed to get in front of some investors after being in a networking event. And you might make some concessions at that point. You might say, okay, the kids are going to be 5 and up. Fine. Accepted. Give me your money. And that's fine. Those are concessions as part of opening a business. If this person is going to give you money, you should probably listen to their input and insight and whatever it might be. Concessions really start to be a thing in Series A or Series B, you know, like 1 to 10 million or upwards of $100 million later on, when that is some serious money and they will make serious demands of your business. And a not uncommon demand is that the CEO steps down, either is purchased out of the business or simply steps down to be an advisor or a managerial role. And for $10 million, they would like to put in their own trusted CEO that has started 5 companies with this venture firm.
Which, I mean, makes sense from like a psychology standpoint of people who have great ideas and get people on board with the great ideas are usually not the person that can actually execute that idea.
Exactly.
And so it makes sense for a VC to be like, listen, like you're the idea guy, stay on board, be our chief whatever, our like chief growth officer or whatever. We want that, but like we need someone who is going to put the rubber to the road, not just pie in the sky. Oh, these are all great ideas. And like, yeah, this is awesome. And everyone's like, wow, they're super charismatic. I love working for them. But that's how you get like the failed company.
Turns out you don't understand operations whatsoever.
Well, and it's like you, even if they like do a lot of times, those people just don't have the long-term vision. And as soon as they start to slow down, it just starts. So it's like, it makes sense that a VC would be like, all right, our guy is coming in because this guy does give us a return of investment.
And that is a serious stage of a startup, because that's when you go from a startup to a company.
And you're like IPO kind of world.
Maybe. Depends on the company. But I mean, Christian, you work big box retail, right? You understand operations and existing on the floor.
Yeah.
How much is involved with just managing a single storefront? Exactly.
Yeah, because you're talking about like, so at the time in which I was there, we referred to store size usually by
previous company.
Previous company. We referred to stores by like the size of the square footage usually. So like 35K, 45K, because that also determined the size of the revenue band usually. So it was like, that's just kind of the colloquialism. I don't know if it's still referred to in that way because it's been not quite long enough, but a while since I've worked there. But yeah, it's crazy because you're talking like our store would have to produce $40 million a year in revenue, which is like, that's a shit ton of money. So you have a general manager and they went, they've gone through various reorgs over the last like 10, 15 years. When I was there, I started in 2005 and then, 2008 happened. And we had some drama. Yeah.
I don't remember any of that.
A bit rough. All of our competitors unnamed went out of business, and somehow we hung on by the skin of our teeth. So anyway, but yeah, you're talking like a store, like a general manager is responsible for $40 million in fucking sales. Like that's batshit crazy. And then they would have teams of say 3 to 5 assistant managers, depending on where we're at in reorgs, and then usually department supervisors under that. So there's 10 to 15 leaders for $40 million and you have to motivate a bunch of teenagers and college kids to give a shit about what they're doing. Like, it's just,
What if you had cannons?
What?
oh my God, dude. If we had cannons to like yeet the shitty customers out of the fucking store, like, God, that would have been amazing. But yeah, we would have been motivated. The team would often be motivated by silly little things like we're trying to get financing applications. And so for every person in the store that gets a financing application, you get to tie a balloon to me and I have to walk around all day with a bunch of balloons tied to my belt. So
That's incredible.
it would always, oh yeah, dude, I have pictures that still pop up on my Facebook feed of me standing in unnamed retail location with just like a cloud of like up style balloons, and then it would get weird and people would start like doodling things and like making flowers and shit. So it was just like the little things, but I mean that doesn't sustain you for like 165 days. That's like a let's have a fun little weekend with a barbecue and a balloon competition. Yeah, dude, it's nuts because it's like just even describing it from like that perspective of like how much actual money we're responsible for is a little mind blowing because
Yeah.
it's like I don't think we made enough money. Although we did get paid well. Like in summation, you cannot do, especially when you're talking about millions of dollars and sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can't do all of the things. Like you were saying, the idea people aren't usually the executors. And if they can do both, they usually can't do both at the same time effectively. So you need to have somebody else, other people, a team of people, experts involved that can help you in the other areas that maybe you're not maybe you're not as experienced in, or you just don't really love to do as much, because usually the idea people love ideas and coming up with the solutions and new ways to do things. So in a store that's making or supposed to make $40 million a year, you can't do that alone. There has to be multiple levels of leadership and other people involved, because you've got logistics and warehouse and customer service and front end and sales. Like you can't just do it all yourself. So
Exactly.
So Ben,
yeah.
Sorry, that where you fin? I don't want to cut you off.
Oh,
but-
did the middle of my sentence interrupt the beginning of yours?
Pardon.
You dick.
Oh,
Go on.
So
No, I was done. Go
I guess
ahead.
the question is, as someone who has pitched, do you go into the pitch having to come to terms with what concessions you will probably have to make?
Absolutely.
So you go in being like, I understand I'm the CEO, or I understand that we think this is going to be a business, but we will probably be bought out rather than funded.
Yes, absolutely. And then it depends on your goal. Again, everything is goal oriented. If I'm standing in front of someone for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, everything is about the goal. Because if my goal is to entertain them, I'm not even going to pitch about my business. If my goal is to get money for this business, I'm going to talk about, okay, maybe why I need that money. But depending on who that individual is, they might understand the problem, or they might understand the future, the value proposition. And so everything is oriented to just understanding your audience and what you're trying to get out of it. But around actually walking into that understanding, like, man, we might have to make some concessions here. Absolutely. Like, walk into that understanding what your goal is and what you're willing to give up to reach that goal. Honestly, what your CEO is willing to give up to reach that goal. Usually the CEO is the one with the idea. They're often not the one with 30 years in supply chain management to actually build your supply chain for you. Like, that requires building a team. Usually a CEO is going to be someone who is replaced with a bunch of experience, etc. And you walk into that pitch knowing, like, yeah, I might, in a week or two, I might not be the CEO of this company, but that is all about executing towards the vision that we have. Because you also didn't have $10 million a week ago. Like, the other part of that coin is that someone believes in you. The fact that you're the CEO isn't that they aren't believing in you. It's that isn't the role for you at the moment. Everyone in this equation is still on the same team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because if they're giving you $10 million, they're expecting at least $10.1 million back.
And they don't want you to fail. You go into this pitch also recognizing that they're on the other side of the table. It's relatively adversarial in nature. That's probably not quite the right word, investigative. They're going to ream you a new asshole with questions on financials, on value proposition, on market segment, on what you've done so far.
Business assumptions.
Yeah, business assumptions. Questions you've never even thought of, and you're going to stand there stammering. And then they're going to be like, all right, so we have $10 million for you. They're going to walk over to your side of the table and be like, now we don't want you to fail.
Yep.
You're managing $10 million for us. Absolutely. We're going to help you out with connections. We're going to help you out with a 30-year experienced supply chain manager. Like, it's
Yeah,
wild to
like
go from
putting-
that. Yeah.
helping you put the right people in the right chairs to make
Yeah.
sure that it's successful for everyone, which makes sense. I feel like that'd be such a scary, because it's one of the things that I learned about myself when it comes to either participating in nonprofits and or working in corporate life. I no longer wish to adhere to anyone else's expectations.
Mhm.
I've gone full tilt to the other side. I'm like, fuck this shit. I want to do things my way, which is how I've always been. I've just kept trying to like,
Figured it
you
out
know,
finally.
stifle it.
You
Yeah,
just put a
yeah,
you just put a polo
yeah,
shirt
oh.
on and pretended it didn't exist.
yeah. I was like, my own wants and needs. No, thank you. I'll pretend that I care about this corporate hubbub and bullshit. But yeah, it's like I couldn't. There's no way I could let go of any of the stuff that I like launching my business or my nonprofit, any of that kind of stuff. I'm like, I refuse. But I also have some of those skills and capabilities. So like, I would be like, hey, this is the thing I really want to do. I don't want to do all this shit. Like, I care a lot about the details, how they happen, what happens. I'm great at leadership. I'm good at building a team. I'm very good at the big picture. I hate doing all the other shit. Let's find people for those things.
Like, give me a strategist.
Yeah, or make me the COO, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, it made me want to throw up a little bit. You can like give me a COO and a CFO, and I can be the CEO.
What'll make you really uncomfortable is that for most of those big startups that happen, for most startups that receive venture capital in the traditional sense, the founders pool is around 7%. Like, say you have 3 founders, you just have 7% of the company split between you guys. The rest of it has been given away for funding to make this business a reality.
But I almost feel like so when we're talking about like venture capitalists and that as a business model specifically, like startups is almost the other side of that. It's like, hey, we have this really great idea. We've like fleshed out like the operational concepts and cost structures and pricing strategy, blah, 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 whatever. And now we're like, hey, this is a super good idea and it's a viable business concept. Please buy this from us. We no longer have to do work and we just make a fucking killing because you guys thought it was a good idea. So now it's essentially like residual income, right? I mean, it could be.
It could be. That's kind of the goal. That's often the goal. That's what's called the exit for most startups. When you pitch to a VC firm for like seed funding, series A, B, C, you are very much running the business. You might only own 1.2% of the business. You are the COO of this business, and the rest of it has been given away for that funding. But you're still owning 1.2%. You still own that, like those stock options or whatever is vesting in the future. Your company goes public, that's your exit, right? You sell your shares on whatever agreement you have, or the company is purchased by another firm, which again, you can pitch to like a Fortune 50 company rather than a VC firm. And they're just like, yeah, we'll buy you and integrate you.
Oh, yeah.
That's the exit, right? Because you're not going to be a startup founder like, oh, okay, you are out to change the world, to be fair. Definitely have that attitude. But you're not like, I'm out to change the world for free and then I disappear into obscurity. No, you want your yacht. Like everyone wants their yacht. And so that's the exit. And your exit can absolutely be valid if we want to get purchased. In 5 years, we have something that is valid for an existing industry. And one of the big players in this industry, maybe Samsung, Apple, Microsoft, whatever it might be, is going to purchase us. Or your exit is, I'm going to run this company for 20 years and make dividends. I'm going to pay myself the profits from the company and we're never going to go public.
Yeah.
Also fair. But you have to understand what that is. You have to know what you're doing from the start.
Because I feel like for some like startup companies, their pedigree is that they've started 8 companies that have been bought by Facebook or whoever, and that's their pedigree. That's when they go to VC and they're like, I have started 8 companies. 7 of them have been bought by Facebook. So I would also like to start a company. Would you like to give me money so we can both get bought?
And that's also who works for a VC firm. Yeah. Right. The person at the end of the line evaluating whether your startup is worth investing in is someone who probably has 4 or 5 successful exits.
Mhm.
And that's just like, hey, I've done this before. I'm familiar evaluating, like, I see your red flags that I experienced. And that's why I'm qualified to evaluate you as, you know, as a startup. That's for the huge firms. That's for Y Combinator down in the Bay Area. For smaller firms like Elevate Capital in Portland, that's a couple $1 million, you know, you're looking at a lot of more business analysts, not, they can't afford someone who has 5 successful exits to be just an analyst with them.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot more of the audience still understand very much who you're pitching to and why. But
so speaking of audience and understanding who you're pitching to, my big question is, are VC pitch sessions like prom? Do we have themes? Like, I want to be bought by a tech company pitch conference. I want to just get money to start this cool business that will change the way people play arcades and bars. Pitch conference. I want to sell this company to a Lowe's, Home Depot, etc. home improvement place company. Like, do they have like prom themes where you show up and you can tailor your pitch deck to be a thing? Or do you just have to kind of go in and be like, fuck it, I got 15 slides and I have 45 seconds to hide 4 of them.
2 hours of sleep, a lot of cocaine, and a fucking dream.
And then I'm going to hide 4 of my slides because I read the room.
Yeah.
Or like, and then if someone asks further questions, I can unhide slides.
So I did think this episode was going to be more on the structure of the pitch rather than the why.
Yeah. That was my next question was like,
that was
me making assumptions over here, just making an ass of you and me.
Yeah.
But no, I will freely say that I only have experience through like later seed funding. I don't have experience with Series B, Series C, like $50 million, $100 million. That is a completely different kind of pitch.
Yeah.
Because you're already proven, and what you're asking for is proving an expansion, why you need another $100 million, that kind of thing. And that is a very, very late stage. If you get there, you made it. You don't need my advice. Just like keep fucking going.
But that's gonna be like a prom day. Like,
right.
They're themed. Like,
yeah.
They know what they want.
In a seed funding round, it's a lot of networking, and it's a lot of people looking at you with their eyebrows raised.
So it's a middle school dance.
Yes.
Seed funding is a middle school dance.
Yeah.
Later stage
I
is
like it.
A whole bunch of people looking at you like, fucking really? Like, show me.
Yeah.
You're awkward and I'm awkward, so I'm gonna be uncomfortable and make you uncomfortable. Okay.
Yes, that's like my jam right there. Those are good analogies too. I feel like that's shit that's like, oh, okay. That when you said, I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like deeply uncomfortable, but societal pressure. So here we are, spinning slowly around a dance floor. Yay. So my recap wrap-up question, I guess, is what are the pieces of a pitch deck?
Right. Excellent question. I don't know if we can
Thank
edit this to the beginning, but the pieces of a pitch deck,
why would we do that? Yeah.
Again, are totally your goal. Like, what are you trying to accomplish by talking to this person? You do this all the time. You do this in your normal conversation. You did this when you were 5 and asking your parents for a Lego from Toys R Us. Like, actually, I think I need this because I won't be an absolute terror this afternoon. That's a pitch. Like, that's a pitch.
Yeah.
But the structure of when you think of pitch, you think of like Shark Tank. There are 5 people sitting in front of me, and they're gonna just destroy my business and me personally, and it's gonna suck, but maybe they'll give me money at the end of it. The biggest thing for that kind of pitch is conveying your value proposition. And you could do a whole episode on value proposition, but you have your intro. In the first 10 to 15 seconds, the audience needs to understand what industry you're discussing. You know, is it medical? Is it automotive? Is it aerospace? Is it insurance? Is it a new industry? Are you literally like, this is brand new, you've never fucking seen this before? It's a sham wow. And like, you need to consumer goods is what the sham wow would be, but what industry you're working in.
Launching children out of cannons just for funsies.
Right. Oh, right. We're
just
pitching
for
something.
funsies.
All right.
Just for funsies. It's a new industry.
We are in functionally the construction business, is like what all of that home improvement, painting houses would fall under. So in the home improvement business, there's a problem. You know, the traditional way of painting houses is garbage. And I have a solution. And now by 30 seconds, you're on to your method, right? You understand the industry, you understand the specific part of the industry that you are adding to, changing, solving, and then you're talking about what you are solving. For kids launching cannons, you're like, I have a method that by launching kids out of cannons, I immediately start with what I'm doing. I'm able to paint houses more rapidly at cost with reusable, maybe, materials. Depends on the resilience of children.
Fingers crossed, they're bouncy.
Right? And that's the first like 50 seconds, 30 seconds, honestly. The faster you get this information conveyed, the better. The rest of your pitch is why. Now that everyone's on board, you've got everyone on your bus, and you're like, all right, now come on this journey with me while I tell you why this is a good idea. And then you enter into like, how big is the current industry? You know, you have a graph with dollars in a bubble and then smaller dollars in your target market. Then you move into like supply chain, what struggles other people have. Then you move into like competitors later on, maybe. Most often it would be substitutes. A substitute or threat of substitute might be traditional house painting. You want to address the fact that, yeah, people could paint their house, I don't know, with
The lame way.
with old people,
Yeah.
just shoot them out of cannons, right?
Sure,
But
sure, yeah.
you get more and more detailed as you go after you get everyone on that bus with you in the first 30 seconds. Everyone on the bus moving in the same direction, and that's pitching.
Okay, cool. So what happens? You lock someone in the bus with you, and then you reenact speed. No one gets off the bus, and you just drive it at a high speed at that point in time. Got it. Easy, super easy.
And I'm like, is that
Yeah.
movie a pitch?
If Keanu Reeves can drive a bus at 55 miles an hour and save everybody, I can sell my business to a venture capitalist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you believe in yourself, bud.
You're gonna launch your, what was the freedom first? Oh, thank you for your service underwear.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah,
hmm
Yeah,
man, that was great.
light, breathable, cups you in all the right places and none of the wrong ones.
Actually
you know.
supportive, good health care.
Yeah.
Wait,
It probably
yeah. Oh,
screens
we're
you
not-
colon cancer, frankly.
Yeah, we're not talking about Canada. So.
We'll pitch in Canada. We'll get bought by a Canadian VC.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, we're gonna have to bleep out all of the swear words, and you're gonna have to eat poutine while you talk, but it's fine. Yeah, okay.
Ooh, on board. Send
Yeah.
here.
What's some? Oh, Molson. I was like, what's a traditional Canadian beer? It's like, yeah, well, we'll have to like bleep out everything we're drinking. It's just like Molson, and
And it'll be like,
hockey
it's
beer,
like,
so-
oh,
yeah.
here's my Dunkin' Donuts, here's my Molson. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
no, it's Tim Hortons. It's Tim Hortons.
Oh yeah, Hortons, yeah.
It's also
All right.
Molson Coors. They own Coors.
I thought Coors
What?
owned Molson.
Is it the other way around? They might have just done a merger, but the company is Molson Coors.
But isn't Anheuser-Busch Coors?
No, Anheuser-Busch is
Oh, is that
Budweiser.
Bud?
Yep, that's Budweiser.
Oh.
And they're the two like fighting.
Yeah, they're like, you
And then
know, we
one
gotta
of them
keep these
owns
white
Natty
trash
Light.
people.
Maybe Pepsi owns Natty Light.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
Probably.
All I
Jesus
know is
Christ.
that Anheuser-Busch does own 10 Barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that means 10 Barrels sold out.
Oh,
yeah.
a long time ago, but it's fine. It's okay.
Like 6 years ago, they sold out.
No,
I mean, good for them, right? That's the dream. That's literally
They-
what we're talking about.
They
It's
did
like,
an exit. The founders fucking bounced.
well,
yeah.
no, I mean, the nice thing was the founders were still there because their actual buy agreement was we still get a certain amount of thousands of gallons of stuff we want to make.
Mhm.
And you can't tell us no. And
fun-
then
Good for them.
Bush said, that's fine because we need billions of gallons of whatever.
Fun case study adventure to go on is the current state of craft brewing, where Molson Coors has been buying and destroying. Like they tried to buy Samuel Adams and just get rid of it, replace it with Coors or whatever shitty beer.
Yeah.
Anheuser-Busch has actually taken a new approach recently of buy and leave in place.
hmm
Like it's old guard hanging on, maybe that's the right answer, I don't know, versus a company recognizing they need to change, realizing that Busch Light is not going to be the beer of the next generation, and buying other companies and being a portfolio holder of all these microbrews.
Oh, which is the better? I mean, that's the better choice.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree with Anheuser-Busch. But like
Ugh, that
That's-
makes me feel dirty though.
that's the new business model, is they're going to be the PepsiCo of beers, where like
Yep.
you have your craft brew, you have no idea it's owned by Anheuser-Busch.
Yep.
like fucking Nabisco, man. Like they own like
Oh, yeah.
the world.
Nabisco,
Fucking
Unilever
absurd.
as well.
Nestle.
Nestle.
Yeah,
Nestle owns half
Or
of
actually,
everything you ever
maybe
consume.
Nestle owns. Does Nestle own Nabisco?
Yep.
Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. Yeah. Nestle just
um,
owns everything.
Nestle owns.
If you put it in
owns
your
the world,
mouth,
yeah.
Nestle probably owns it.
And then at the end of that,
Yeah.
Berkshire
No.
Hathaway,
Yes. Yes. Also. Yes.
Title of
Todd?
your sex tape.
Yep. Nabisco.
Oreo Daddy.
Oreo Daddy. Nestle owns Oreo Daddy.
Good. Anywho, okay. So, what did we learn from this episode, David?
Ooh, well, we learned some phenomenal things. The main things we learned is that, well, I mean, I'm going to sum it up in a different way than what we actually learned, which is the best way to sum up what we learned, like going in a different direction. But I feel like the big thing is.
No, the best part is that
Dave.
She's not laughing.
no, like, but we're not actually laughing at you. That's really the best part. Is that like you just deconstructed, and Ben and I were having a shared joke because he fucking drooled beer all over himself again.
It was a moment.
And you're just over here like, I know I'm an idiot. Hold on. And
I'm doing my best.
I'm a helper.
I did my fucking best. I did my fucking best. Oh,
I'm an adult.
Teen Cook
I'm
wouldn't-
an adult.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so for fuck's sake,
think
David, what
at
did
the
you
end of the
learn
day,
in this episode?
Pitch deck, the big thing about a pitch deck is you have to come in with an agenda, and you have to realize that that agenda may emotionally hurt you. And I mean, at the end of the day, you will probably be, if you're asking someone else for money, that means they get to take something from you in exchange for money. It's the same thing as an hourly wage worker. Someone wants something from you, therefore they will hand you money for that thing. It's the same situation with the business. And so with the pitch deck, you are trying to tell them why they should take less away from you, because of how awesome your idea, business strategy, plan, etc. is. And so you should always build your pitch deck so that you get as much control over your destiny and then as much money back as possible. But just know that, like, at the end of the day, you're here to make money. That's why you made a business. If you had a great idea, you would be a saint and you would do it for free and you would die poor. And then 70 years later, the Catholic Church would saint you. What you're doing is you're trying to make money. And you have to realize that sometimes making that money means giving up your dream and putting it into someone else's hands to execute.
Yeah, because you're not a billionaire.
Because you're not a billionaire.
Yet, motherfucker.
So I guess the key is, and then you can become a billionaire to then make that decision about other people's dreams.
In a really dark way, you're applying to be part of the club.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
A pitch deck is just an audition for venture capitalism.
Yeah.
On that note,
So the takeaway that I got
top your thing.
from that was, that was not what I got from that. No, I feel like so pitch decks are an evolution as you are working through the details of your idea. So like you start your idea with like a high level overview of like, I think this is the thing. I'm going to launch kids out of cannons. Sure. Yeah. Kids in cannons. And then you're like flushing out the other stuff. And maybe you talk to your buddy at the bar and you're like, listen, though, like I have it. I have the best fucking idea. Listen, Linda. And then it kind of evolves from there. And then you're like, oh shit, like this could actually be a viable business plan. Like, how would I actually fund this? Then you move down the line. But initially it's kind of like basically what a PowerPoint should be, which is the bullet point outline of an idea of something that then has more detail and context later or during the presentation, depending on the thing. So like when you have an idea for a business, do a pitch deck ?
Yeah.
And most of those go on like napkins, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of pitch decks start on like
At least
napkins and cell phone notes.
Start with pitching to yourself, just in your own head.
Oh,
Is this a good idea? Psych yourself up for it.
that's so wholesome. Ben's life advice: pitch to yourself first, buddy. You're the first person that matters.
I'm gonna send you down a dark
And then David's
road.
like, you're a fucking idiot.
Sell out.
Ben's like, but believe in yourself. Anyway, okay. So pitch decks by Ben. I think that's a solid wrap. Also known as Kids in Cannons. I'm
I love it.
pretty excited to put that as the episode title. Yeah.
I don't even
Any
remember
last
what
thoughts?
was the table slapper episode because we named it something different.
The table slapper was toxic.
We named it
Bunnies.
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 Bunnies in the murder zone.
Zone.
That
Yeah.
one. Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
I like Bunnies in the Murder Zone as the title.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Kids in Cannons is pretty
Bunnies
good
in the
too.
Murder Zone.
Yeah.
Everything is
Everything
terrible.
is terrible. Fucking nailed it.